Hello and welcome to the THC Show. I'm your host Neil Magnuson, and this is a show where we talk about truth, hope, and change. We try to provide some insight into what's going on in the world, to find some of the truths that are important to us, and hopefully provide a little bit of hope, because you're not going to get any change without hope. So with some truth, we can get some hope, and with some hope, we can get some change if we all work for it. On the show today, we'll have 8 out of 10 Glen from CannaMatch.ca join us for the 420 session. We'll update you on what's going on with Jerry Martin for the Martin Medical Moment. And we'll get up to speed on what's going on with the Healing Wave CSPRV in our quest for a community-based low-barrier access cannabis shop. We've been trying to get permission from public servants to be able to operate our program with a license in hand. And the program is where we hand out high-dose cannabis edibles to people in an effort to give them an option and a way out of the addiction to opioids that is killing people in our neighborhood and right across Canada and North America. This program has been operating for 4.5 years. It started out as a project, and for 3.5 years we were working out of Vandu 2 days a week, long lineups of people, hundreds of people getting care packs of high-dose edibles. And that eventually moved us into a store because we had the support from City Council, where they said they would support the low-barrier access that we were providing, and an expanded version of that. That didn't go so well, because even though the city said they would support that, the city licensing department would not support that with an actual license until we got permission from the federal government, as it turns out. We got an eviction proceeding happening because the city threatened the landlord who didn't want to evict us, but eventually took us to court. We had a judge there say that he had no confidence that we could get our licenses within 6 months at the time. That's what we were asking for, was an adjournment for 6 months, hoping that by that time Health Canada would have responded to our application for licenses, along with our emergency application for a temporary exemption from the Cannabis Act, which would have allowed us to get that license. But the judge said he had no confidence that that could happen within 6 months, and as it turns out, he was right. I thought that was a ludicrous thing to think about at the time, that they wouldn't be able to give us permission for, 6 months. When what we're actually doing is of super serious need here. People are dying. There's a whole population of people that are struggling with poverty and addiction here on the downtown east side. We've been addressing that with great success with our program. And so I didn't think it would be, an issue to get that emergency temporary exemption in a fairly short order. But it's been over a year now since we applied for that. We were evicted, and we immediately got an RV, and we've been providing the same service as always, although under a limited capacity, somewhat hampered by the tight quarters and the lack of a real nice space for people to come into during the inclement weather and what have you. But we have 6 days a week for the last year, been, 11 and a half months we're coming up to now of working in the RV. It's crazy, isn't it? I mean, a year ago, we applied under an emergency basis. We formed a society. We were a large group of people. We're an organization that's been providing high-dose edibles for all of these years. We have the support of City Council. We have the support of all the local harm reduction groups. We have other politicians that support us. And we've been trying to get Health Canada to give us the license that we need to be able to operate legally from a storefront to do what we're doing for all of these years. It's ludicrous, isn't it? I mean, it makes no sense. All the evidence is clear. I mean, you look at over 50 studies released by Dr. M.J. Malloy alone that show the efficacy of cannabis as a way out of opioid addiction, as a way to deal with all the drivers of addiction, the anxiety, the depression, the pain, the sleep disorders, all the traumas that people have suffered, all the psychological issues, the mental health issues. All of these things are assisted by the proper use of cannabis. And improper use of cannabis is very rare and is not really an issue. There is no logical reason why we wouldn't be given permission to continue to do what we're doing and do it in an even better way in the midst of an epidemic, epidemic of overdose deaths. People are dying. Thousands and thousands of Canadians have died as a result of this opioid overdose crisis that's going on here. So what the hell is going on? Why can't we get a little bit of support, any support, for doing what we're doing here in saving people's lives and bettering the lives of people that are struggling, in many cases from no fault of their own, people driven into poverty, people suffering from depression, people that are in pain, in many cases are not even responsible for their own situation. It's just what happened to them, and it could happen to anybody. It could happen to you and me. For the grace of God, any one of us could find ourselves in the situation that so many people are in here on the downtown east side of Vancouver that we're helping. We are helping them in profound ways. It is well supported. It is well documented. There has been no problems. We're dispensing high-dose cannabis edibles, about between 12 and 15,000 milligrams every single day here on the downtown east side. We've had no problems. There are no issues that would result in the government needing to really take some time to assess what we're doing because there's problems that are associated with it. There are no problems associated with what we're doing here. So what is going on? There's been a lot of lies told about cannabis. I mean, if you go back to the Reefer Madness days and see what they were saying about cannabis and what happens to people when they use it, oh my God, of course you wouldn't want to support something like that, except that was all lies. And we figured all that out. There's still lies being told about cannabis. There's still stigmatization of cannabis users that's extremely unfair because it's simply a medicinal herb that is very helpful to most people in a variety of different ways. And it's been demonized by evil corporate forces that want you to use their stuff instead of stuff you can grow for yourself. I mean, it's pretty well known now what's been going on. And in fact, it's even legal now in Canada for people to go and buy cannabis and walk into stores and get it. We don't like that legalization. We think it eliminates the people that are daily users, the poor people, the medical users aren't being served with this legalization that we have. The high-dose edibles aren't even allowed, and that's the most crucial medical aspect of cannabis for people that are really suffering is the high-dose edibles, and especially for people wanting to get off of opioids. It's the high-dose edibles that are required here. So we don't think legalization is what it should be at all, and we think that there should be high-dose edibles available. There should be much more affordable cannabis available, and it should be available in all the different forms, and the competition should be easy, and there shouldn't be a lot of regulations because it's not a dangerous commodity, and all of that sort of thing. But still, with legal cannabis, still with all indications that what we're doing is really helping in a serious situation of people dying, still, we can't seem to get approval. There's two reasons for it. One is money, which I guess I would say is corruption, because it's people not allowing for cannabis to be accessed easily at a reasonable price. And the other is hate. There's been a large group of people that are, for whatever reason, maybe it's their morals, maybe it's their religion, I don't know, but they don't like people that decide to use drugs, that get caught up in drug addiction or using drugs, drug addicts, and all the different other derogatory terms that they put onto people that are simply struggling in their life in ways that nobody knows but them. And they're trying to get through their days with as little pain as they can and manage to do that. And in many cases, they turn to drugs. And maybe they're not using them properly. Maybe they're not the right drugs. Who knows? That all happens. That's all part of the equation here. But there's a fair number of people that are prohibitionists. Many of them are alcohol drinkers and pill poppers, but that's another story, and maybe even cigarette smokers and probably addicted to sugar and all of those things. That's another side of it. But there is a moralistic side of this as well, that there's a lot of people that really don't like druggies and people that are involved in non-alcoholic drugs or illegal drugs or the drugs that aren't approved by society or whatever it is. So there's hate and there's greed and there's a lot of money. So we know that there's some pretty powerful forces that we're up against to try to get the permission that we're looking for, a piece of paper with a signature on it, that says that we can provide low barrier access to cannabis for sick people and poor people and just ordinary people that want cannabis and don't want to have to pay a whole bunch of money for it or jump through a whole bunch of hoops for it or not be able to get it anyway because there's too many barriers in their way. We think that we should be able to have that, but we know there's forces that are against that. We know that law enforcement for a long time has been making a lot of money on prohibition. There's been a lot of cops that have paid their mortgages because all they do all day is try to chase down people that have illegal drugs. And there's huge other arms of law enforcement as well, you know, right to the prison system as well, which profits, especially in the States with private for-profit prisons that really need to have bodies in those cells to be making the money that their business model tells them they should be making. And they don't mind having people arrested for drugs. In fact, the people that are arrested for drugs in many cases are easier to handle than the people that are there because they've done violence and that they're thieves. So there's a lot of people being arrested and have been and continue to be in the United States to fill those prison spots. And here in Canada, there's still a lot of enforcement and incarceration and probationary groups that make their money because of drug prohibition and because there's people that are dealing in illegal drugs or possessing illegal drugs. And it's a huge, big money-making machine. So we get it, that law enforcement has a lot to do with why the prohibition continues on, why legalization in Canada also includes illegalization, like there's still the illegal weed and the legal weed, and all the people that are involved in prohibition, all the cops. In fact, they hired more cops and they increased their budgets and all the rest of that because it's a huge money-making deal for a whole bunch of law enforcement people, and they have a voice and they don't want to lose that. And so we know that that's a force that we're up against. We know that Big Pharma obviously is a huge force against the legalization of cannabis in ways that allow people to use it for medicine. They're one of the main reasons that prohibition continued on for all the time that it did and the way that it did. They've financed a lot of prohibition projects. They lobbied hard for it. And you can see why. You know, cannabis is nature's best supplement to our endocannabinoid system, which overrides and regulates the other systems in the human body, which means that cannabis is a supplement to that which deals with all the things that we deal with as human beings, the traumas, the pains, the inflammations, and all of that stuff can be dealt with cannabis. It's one of the best medicines out there. It's been used for thousands of years across cultures all around the globe and for a huge variety of different reasons and benefits for people. So you can see why a pharmaceutical company that's based on synthetic copies of the herbs and the medicines that we use and they want to dominate the market, you can see why they wouldn't be all that much in favor of people being encouraged to grow their own plants or trade amongst themselves and use this herb instead of using their pills. So I get it. I get why they're motivated against cannabis being easily available to people. But it's not very moral, is it? And in fact, when the pharmaceutical companies are the ones responsible for the opioid epidemic, and they're also the ones that are lobbying to not allow for cannabis to be easily available to people to address the overdose crisis, well, then that's starting to sound pretty criminal, isn't it? So we know there's that group. We know there's that whole medical community. We know that doctors are highly invested in prescribing pharmaceutical drugs to get their bonuses and to get their cruises and to get favor with these companies that make sure that they benefit. It's a nice little scheme they got going on. They're making trillions of dollars. They can spread that all around. The doctors do very well. And it's not in their best interests either to have people using cannabis, although you would think that there'd be more ethical doctors, but maybe they get their ethics knocked out of them when they go through medical school, which is financed primarily by the pharmaceutical companies, and perhaps there's drugs that they're testing in their rise to be a doctor that strip them of the ethics that they should have in doing no harm and in trying to help people. Because really what they've been trying to do for a long time, many of them, not all of them, God knows, there are good doctors. Just like there's good cops, right? But they're not all good. And the doctors are not all good. And there's many doctors that are making big money off of people that are addicted to these opioids that they've put them on. They're working hand in hand with pharmaceutical companies, another huge force against us being able to get permission to be able to help people is the medical community. Unfortunately, another big force in keeping us from being able to provide cannabis as an option to people for medical purposes and to poor people and to get people off opioids is the legal cannabis industry in Canada. The legal cannabis industry in Canada are quite happy to have artificially high prices put in place there, to have the competition snuffed out by a protection racket run with our tax dollars and all these cops running around with guns and chasing people to make sure that nobody sells weed except the government stores. So they're also likely, not just likely, they're also a force against us being able to provide high-dose edibles and reasonably priced cannabis. The stores that want to sell cannabis for lots of money and the people that want to sell cannabis for lots of money, we're not their enemy. They're not our enemies. That's going to happen. That should happen. Why the hell not? There's really good cannabis that can be produced out there, and there should be, you know, people that can charge a top dollar for it. And there's lots of people that have lots of money and they want to buy the best cannabis and they want to spend lots of money on it, and they should be allowed to do that. And high-end stores of high-end cannabis and that type of thing should absolutely be allowed. And we're not against that. I'm not fighting against that. That's not our enemy. We're not their enemy. We just want to have easy access for poor people and sick people so that they also can get cannabis reasonably priced, because it doesn't have to be produced expensively. You can produce good cannabinoids inexpensively, and that needs to be a thing. Compassionately grown and priced cannabis available. So anyway, the legal companies, the cops, the medical profession, the pharmaceutical companies, the moralists, the religious people that have, you know, very strange that they would do that. It's very contradictory if you look at, you know, what things are really about with religion, and that God was the creator of all of these things, including plants, by the way, and that, you know, we as man decide that we're going to prohibit this plant that God created, even though that's one that really helps us, and man lies through their teeth about it, and all that stuff. The religious moralists really should be not in favor of prohibition of God's plants. They should not be in favor of demonization of the effects of God's plants. And so that makes no sense to me, but they're in there as well. But there is another one. There's another big one. And it's one that most of us never think about. In fact, you would think that the treatment industry for people trying to get off of opioids would be an asset in this epidemic of overdose deaths. But the opposite is true. I'm sorry to report to you. You need to watch a movie called Body Brokers. There's become an industry of treatment. There's become government legislation that allows for financing of people to go through rehab because they're trying to address the opioid crisis. This has been seized upon by unsavory characters, and it is huge, huge, big, corrupt business that's going on here. They're not in the business of getting people back off of opioids and into a normal life. They have about a 10% success rate, and that's probably higher than they want, because what they need is bodies in those positions so they can bill for them. You need to watch Body Brokers. It's available on YouTube. It blew me away. It's a $12 billion a year industry in California alone. One treatment center billed $72 million. It's either paid for by government so they can offer it for free to people that are struggling with addiction. Hey, we can help you get off of your drugs. We can get you into a treatment center. No charge. Do you have insurance? That's even better. So it's a scam. It's an insurance fraud. And they're bringing people into treatment. And they get paid huge amounts of dollars for having them in treatment. And the longer they stay there, the more they get. And if they complete their 90 days, in 1 minute, we're going to have a break. But you need to watch Body Brokers on YouTube. You need to understand that the treatment industry is part of the problem, not part of the solution. They're continuing to keep people coming through on a revolving door, getting them re-addicted afterwards, continuing to get grants and insurance companies paying for their stays or charging them for those people that have money. But the idea is not to make them better. The idea is to keep them as clients and to perpetuate this horrible situation we have of opioid drugs being misused and people becoming addicted because they can't get through withdrawal to get off them. And then all of these other groups making money off of them and using them as chattel. I mean, I knew that there was a lot of money being made off of the illegal drug trade that was being driven by prohibition. I just didn't realize that there was so much money that was also being made by the treatment industry trying to, you know, pretending to try to get people off of these things when really they're invested, just like the pharmaceutical companies are invested in people continuing to use their drugs. These treatment centers are invested in continuing to have these people use their services. And we really need to look into this, and we really need to do something about this quick. But all these reasons are why we can't seem to get a license. It's been over a year now. We'll see what happens in the future. We're still hopeful, but that's what's going on. So it's 4:20. Come on in, Glen. We have Glen Wells from CannaMatch.ca. We call him 8 out of 10 Glen because, show us your fingers, Glen. He blew off some of his fingers trying to save his daughter from a bear banger that went off when it wasn't supposed to.
In our carport.
Yeah, in the carport there. So since then we call him 8 out of 10 Glen, which is not bad. 8 out of 10,
I love 8 out of 10 Glen. Yeah, it's great.
You're hitting 8 out of 10, you're doing pretty
anyways,
good.
Right? Yeah. So I put Body Brokers up there for you.
Good stuff.
I put a link in there so people can just
an incredible
click on
movie.
The link and go and watch that movie.
It needs to be watched. The director, it's almost an autobiography. It's a documentary movie, so it's a movie, very entertaining, although horrifying in the end for sure, and with what it's actually saying it's about.
It's almost like a jail system, right? There's people out there that are making money out the jail by putting people in jail all the time.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's a big business.
Yeah. Cops getting their quotas. Yeah. They got to arrest a certain amount of people. They're on the drug squad. That's their job. They see this person just as another way to say they're doing their job and justify their paycheck. But the hate is on the other side of it too. It's hate and greed. Yeah. It's not just making money off the backs of this bad situation and poor people
Everybody
suffering.
Wants to make money, right?
But there's people that actually hate those people. They're happy to hurt those people. In the case of cops, they decide pretty quickly whether they like you or not, whether you're a good guy or a bad guy. And if they think you're a bad guy, they're going to hurt you. Yeah. They're not your friend. They're going to make it miserable for you. They don't have faith in the court system. They think on behalf of society, they should punish these people a little bit before the court system just gives them a slap on the wrist and lets them go. There's a lot of frustration amongst cops about how people are not being punished properly for the crimes that the cops catch them for having done. And so, in many cases, the cops, they provide their own justice on the spot. So if they decide that you're one of these criminal people and they don't like you, they're going to hurt you. Yeah. So,
In Toronto in the 80s, we used to have the Cherry Beach Express. They even did a song about the Cherry Beach Express where the cops would give their own justice. Either you could get charged or you can go down to Cherry Beach and get a beating and they let you go.
Exactly.
I don't know, we don't hear about that too much more, but I remember that being from Toronto, that if you went to Cherry Beach.
Do you remember, back when cell phones first started to come out, that there was a scandal that hit because at the time, there was more devices for listening in on cell phones that had been sold than there was cell phones. And lots of people were listening in on people's conversations. And somebody caught that conversation. I think it was one of the NDP
and that's because
elected
they
officials,
waves, right?
Lawyers was having a conversation, and some of the things that were said in that conversation were, that was scandalous. Yeah. Except for a lot of us, I think, already understood that that's how it works behind the scenes with these politicians.
Because I remember as a kid tuning in on radios, and sometimes you would pick up somebody's conversation or something like that from their mobile cell phone.
Or back in the days of party lines.
Going to party lines, party lines was when you picked up the phone, but they didn't have cell towers then, so they were using radio signals.
So when the cell phones came out and people were listening in on conversations, there was some very embarrassing conversations that were recorded and exposed. And what's happened since then? Well, and then there was emails, right? And then it turned out that your emails aren't private and they can be subpoenaed, and we have to show them. They just continue to get more and more sneaky about how they communicate, how they do this dirty business, out of sight. So we don't hear a lot about it because they've gotten way more sophisticated about how they do things. And now there's these Pandora papers.
I know. That's what I shared with Neil there about it last night.
And there again, did we not all suspect?
We already knew
that the wealthy in the world are not paying their fair share of taxes and are hiding money in tax havens around the world. Yeah, did you not suspect that some of them would be politicians and prime ministers? And we all suspect this. We all know this, really.
Running a country like Russia. Vladimir, whatever his name is.
Oh, man.
Oh, my gosh.
Elvis Stoico has money in there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Why is he so rich, Yeah. Oh, man. But,
you're talking about illegal substances. This is still illegal. What you're smoking is not, but this is. Right? Because
don't tell me this came from a licensed producer.
No, but I'm just saying, cannabis in itself is now legal in our country.
You're allowed to grow 4 plants in some provinces
without having a hassle.
Yeah.
But whereas this is still illegal, you're not going to call you fellow druggie because we're both druggies.
And I know there's people screaming at their TVs right now saying cannabis is not a drug.
I know, right?
Yeah. But we're still called druggies, and we're still looked upon that way. That stigmatization that happened so successful. I mean, it permeated our whole society for a long time.
I think we're changing it slowly.
We are.
We are
for
slowly
sure we
changing
are.
it. Yes.
But it's just a testament to how well ingrained people were with that whole idea that these druggies are bad people, and if you're not drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes, coffee in the morning, and a lot of donuts along the way, then you're a drug addict.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, those drugs are fine, but you know, if you're using the drugs that the government says are bad, well, if the government says they're bad, they must be bad. Drugs aren't illegal because they're not bad. They must be illegal because they're bad, right?
Maybe.
Well, I'll tell you truthfully, and we like to tell the truth on this show. Cannabis, if legal and available everywhere, is extremely harmful to the bottom line profits of pharmaceutical companies, law enforcement companies, you know, these other places that are making money off of cannabis illegalization. It's going to hurt them real bad. So yeah, it's very dangerous, the idea of allowing or ending prohibition. In fact, it is dangerous financially around the world. If we were to actually end all prohibition of all drugs immediately right now, there is so much of the economies of the world that are driven by the illegal drug trade that there'd be huge economic repercussions if the world was to just end prohibition this moment.
Wow.
It needs to do it.
We'd all be happier people.
Well, no, we wouldn't all be happier people.
No,
that's the thing. The masses of people would be happier.
Yes.
You know, the ordinary person, you and I, certainly activists, medical users, anybody that wants to use cannabis, and not just cannabis. We're talking all drug prohibition at this moment. You know, sure, those people would benefit and be happy, but it's that group of people that have been making huge bank off of prohibition that would not be happy about that. And some moralists...
Those people would have to find something else to do, just like the oil people would have to do when we change over to solar panel and electric and clean energy. You know? You know
how ridiculous the world is when it comes to the prohibition of cannabis. We fought hard, we told the truth, we won the day to the point where we've got legalization. Like I say, not legalization that we were asking for, not what we're going to accept, not which is okay at all, but in this form of legalization, some of those people that were making money on prohibition before switched over. You know, some of them are still making money on prohibition, and they stayed with that because there's still good money there. But some others, they went to okay, now we'll supply those people with cannabis and make a ton of money off them because we can still charge them, you know, an arm and a leg for it if we have the government support.
Mr. Blair would be one of those.
Mr. Blair would be one of those.
Yes.
A law enforcement guy. There's other people as well, and it's...
Maybe they knew the truth before.
Sure they do. Sure they do. And they positioned themselves, you know, they understood what was going on here. Yeah, we're going to give them legalization. You know, we can't deny that. They've proven their points. We're going to give them legalization, but here's how we're going to do it. You know, we're going to make sure that we control all of the supply, that they can't buy it off themselves or their friends or any other stores but ours. And yeah, we're going to keep the prices up here, you know, even higher than they are with prohibition, which is the most ludicrous of things of all.
Well, it also makes it so that the illegal people can still sell it for a cheaper price and keep some of the money, right, I guess?
Yeah.
Right?
and I guess this is good, except it's not, because all these illegal people that you're talking about shouldn't be illegal, that's all. They shouldn't be treated like criminals. You should be able to set up a little stand, put up an advertisement. You've grown some cannabis. You think it's really good. You're going to offer it for sale. People can come and buy it. You know, there's no real problem. There might be some of that which isn't flushed properly. Yeah. There might be some of that's got other issues with it. That's, you know, maybe there was bugs. Yeah. So, you know, the savvy connoisseur is going to know what they're looking at when they go and look at this guy's cannabis that he's, you know, advertised in the paper and he's got for sale in his garage. So, you know, I mean, should happen. You can sell shit out of your garage. Why not? You know, I mean, if it was dangerous, if there was problems, then okay, some regulations, maybe a license is needed. But until there's problems, and with cannabis, there really wouldn't be much in the way of that, likely.
Except they're leaving pesticides on it and stuff like that.
But if that's going on, a savvy connoisseur is not going to buy that. No, he's going to go and look at it. He's going to go have his own little tester with him. He's going to have a look at his scope, and he's going to go, nope, I don't want that. The average person might buy it. The average person is not going to be harmed by it not being flushed properly. How much weed did we smoke over the years that wasn't flushed properly? And we know it because it didn't burn right. It sparked when it was lit. We smoked lots of this stuff. And for the average person, it's not an issue. It's not anything that causes you to have to go to hospital. No cost to society. It's probably not good for you. Don't recommend you do it. You know, but it's not
black. Put it out.
Yeah,
you want it to be a gray or
a nice white ash on there.
White ash on there. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see that, but I'm actually smoking one, and there you go.
But we had weed for all these decades that was all black market or underground market weed. Lots of it probably wasn't flushed properly as people tried to get it to market quicker and bigger or whatever, or didn't know what they were doing.
That was Ontario.
So the savvy connoisseurs are not going to buy that stuff if it's not good. And they're going to know by look and smell. It's not hard to tell. You can, you know, you learn that pretty quick. The medical people, the people that would really care about that, there are some people... They don't want to take a chance on weed that's going to burn black and spark and hard ash and the rest of it. They're not going to be out buying out of people's garages because there's going to be stores for them that make a lot of sense, where there's people there that care about the product, that understand the needs of the people, that can cater to the medical issues, that have tested cannabis to make sure all that stuff would be available easily. Medical people would not be prey to the average person selling not quite properly flushed weed. They wouldn't be prey to them at all in a world where they had stores to walk into, where they could get what they want in a caring, clean, secure environment that is knowledgeable and all the rest of that. We would not have an issue with that. We never had issues with masses of people. They said that cannabis prior to legalization here in British Columbia was a $7 to $9 billion a year industry.
Wow.
That's a lot of doses of cannabis that are being consumed by people. There was never problems. There was never hospital wards full of people that have now contracted something because of bad cannabis. It didn't happen. So all of this is just a fear-mongering smokescreen to try to protect this government plan to have artificially high prices and keep cannabis illegal to sell for everybody but them and their friends. So, you know, that's what's going on with that anyway.
Keeping cannabis for the rich, not for the people who really need it, us medicated people, or medical people.
Yep.
It helps my scoliosis daily. RSO helps me scoliosis daily.
So your doctor got a thing from the Canadian Medical Association?
From Health Canada.
Same thing?
Yeah. Medical Association, Health Canada, okay.
and it states that due to their research and what they've been able to determine with their investigation...
You want me to quote it?
You can quote it if you want.
All right,
it says that they've decided that for the average human being, 3 grams of cannabis is sufficient. And they're warning against doctors that would prescribe more than that. Well, I don't know what they're investigating, but anybody that I know that's actually a medical user, if they were actually investigating the people that are using cannabis for medical purposes, the vast majority of them are going to use a lot more than 3 grams. In your case, your doctor's asking for 100 grams a day for you, and they're balking at that. He's saying that, you know, that Glen is not an average user, for one thing. That you had a long time crack addiction earlier in your life. You've got scoliosis, or you have issues with your spine, PTSD, and that you've needed to increase your dosage, you know, as the years have gone on. That you don't just use smokable cannabis, but that you juice it as well, and all the rest of that. So I mean.
Definitely not the average user. It says your medical authorization from patient me authorizes a daily dose of 100 grams of dried cannabis per day for a period of 12 months. This is 33 to 100 times more the average than than an average user of 1 to 3 grams a day. As you may know, the daily authorized quantity of medical document is used to calculate the number of plants. That's my plants there. Available data suggests that most individuals who use cannabis for medical purpose on an average amount of 1 to 3 grams of dried cannabis each day.
Right. You're a medical user and you're going to use 1 gram of cannabis a day.
Yeah, we're not talking about edibles. We're not talking about oils. They're just saying dried cannabis, right?
Oh,
the College of Family Physicians of Canada has also indicated that it expects the upper level of the safe use of dried cannabis for chronic pain or anxiety will be on the order of 3 grams per day, and that even this level of use should be considered only in very circumscribed conditions.
Yeah, very circumscribed. Who are the people that are writing this? They are not medical cannabis users, I'll tell you that. And they don't even seem like people that have had much experience with medical cannabis
online
users.
And Googled it. You know, they say don't trust Google, right?
There's none of that going on. You know what they do?
Yeah.
They sit down and they say, we really don't want people using this at all.
Yeah.
So they're gonna demand, the courts have demanded that they get to use it. What amount do we want to let them use? That's what they say. What amount do we want that we can get away with? Well, we can say 1 to 3 grams and we can get away with that. There's no research or investigation done at all, period. Because any medical user, anybody that identifies themselves as a medical user of cannabis, would not have their needs met with 1 or 3 grams of cannabis in a day. Like, give me a break.
They say that
at the very low end,
yeah.
It might be 3 grams a day for somebody. But you know why we get 3 grams? Because they can't afford it. Yeah. Because they can't get it. Yeah. Because, you know, it's something they have to ration out like that. Yeah. If they had more available, if it wasn't so expensive, they'd be using more than 3 grams a day because it really helps people, and especially if you have a medical need. If you're suffering with pain, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
you know?
And they even say that it's gone down. It says data from the holders of cannabis license issued by Health Canada also shows that the average daily quantity authorized by healthcare practitioners for the 2,976,702 clients registered with holders of license for medical sale in Canada is 2.1 grams a day. It should be noted that the average authorizer daily quantity has tended downward over time from 3 grams a day in 2016 to the current 2.1. Yeah,
that's what they want. They would like you to believe that.
Yeah, if you're only smoking it, maybe.
Talk about cherry picking numbers, I'll tell you. If they were motivated the opposite to where they are, you can see where they're motivated, obviously, by what they're saying there. If they were motivated the other way, if they were an advocacy group for medical cannabis users that were using large amounts of cannabis, and they wanted to put together, you know, the numbers to show what the average usage was, it'd be 100 grams a day. You can just imagine how much they could inflate it. Yeah. Because there's lots of people that use 1,000 and 2,000 milligrams of cannabis edibles every day. I mean, that's not 1,000 grams of weed, but high-dose edibles, concentrates of cannabis, use many, many grams of cannabis to come up with them. Lots of people use large amounts. If they wanted to cherry pick numbers to make it say, boy, you should be using lots of this stuff because they were like the sellers of cannabis maybe, if that's who was putting together those numbers and they wanted to sell you lots, they could easily cherry pick numbers that would come up with some large amount that people should be access to. You can see where they're motivated. And none of it matters at all because it doesn't flippin' matter what the average is. No. Glenn is not average. No. You are not average. I am not average. There's no such thing as average except in the heads of people that want to spin something to sell you whatever it is they're trying to sell you, either on not using or whatever it might be. But there's no average person out there, really, and there's so many unaverage people out there. Everybody gets to decide for themselves. You are not property of anybody. So no doctor owns you. No doctor gets to dictate to you. Doctors are your advisors. That's who doctors are. You go to your doctor because he has a lot of knowledge about things you might not know about. He can maybe figure out what's not right. He maybe knows. He can maybe help you. That's all great. But you're not forced to take what he says as truth. You are not forced to take any drug that he says he'll allow you to take. Not at all. He's an advisor. You're there to take his advice. That's why lots of times they'll tell you, get a second opinion. These are just opinions. They're opinions of people that vary in the same profession. Different doctors in the same field will differ in their opinions. They're not all right. In fact, because they differ, some of them have to be wrong, or more wrong than others anyway. And if they're talking about what it is that you could be taking for yourself, for your situation, they're simply advisors. And they obviously don't know. You know, they don't know what works for you cannabis-wise. They could ask you, and you know, and then they're going to say, well, this is what I've been sent by the college here. We got this information here. And it says that you, Mr. Average Person sitting in front of me, you shouldn't be using more than 3 grams a day, or it's something to be cautious about.
And the college is
they know nothing.
Who don't smoke pot.
They know nothing.
You know?
They know nothing.
They know nothing about it.
Exactly. I'm sure they don't smoke pot. And you know what? In these treatment places... cannabis is not allowed. Yeah. If they were really trying to help people, they would understand that cannabis is a harm reduction tool. It is an absolute great way for many people to deal with withdrawal, to deal with the pain that they're using other drugs for. It should, if looked at properly and reasonably, it would be incorporated into many of the treatment places' harm reduction schemes.
So hard for them to wrap their brains around.
They don't want to.
They've been told has been bad though, and now all of a sudden it's good, right?
Oh, I know. But there's no motivation.
Even NA used to kick you out if you smoked pot. That was more for hard drugs than Narcotics Anonymous. But if you smoked pot, you were not allowed.
I know you weren't allowed.
Right?
But you could take the break at AA, go outside with your friends, and all smoke cigarettes, and they serve coffee right in the place. There's drug use going on there. But no, the reason that these treatment centers test people for cannabis. They don't want cannabis to be allowed as part of the solution to this. It mucks with their profits.
People are going to get healthy and not come back as much.
That's right. It's as bad as that is to say, as horrible as that is,
much relapsing,
that's what's going on. So yeah, I mean, that was just such a huge revelation to me, to understand that these treatment places here are bad, that they're just trying to revolve people back through. They're collecting money for every person that comes through there. They're making big money on the people that come through there. They're bribing people to go into these places to take the treatment. And can you imagine, you go through your 90 days of treatment, and then right away they give you $2,000 because that's your cut. You know, you get 1 day. They got $2,000 per day while you were in there for the first 30 days, more than that for the next 30, more than that for the next 30. So to give a person $2,000 of that is absolutely a drop in the bucket. It's no skin off their nose. But $2,000 to somebody who just spent 90 days in a treatment center, they don't have a job to go back to, they probably don't have a place to go back to stay even. They're going to put them into a halfway house until they can find a place to stay, and that halfway house is where they're going to take that $2,000 and allow them to reinvest it in the same drugs that they were in the treatment center for in the first place, and then they go back in there several months later and get another grant from the government or an insurance company to pay for their rehab again, because everybody knows that rehab doesn't take the first time. Rehab, you got to go through several times before it actually works. But and in many cases you end up dead, but before you actually succeed. And that's the way they want it to work. They want it to be that insurance companies and governments or people are going to pay several times over to go through these expensive rehab places and treatment centers, only to be prey for these people. And that's all. They're not people that are compassionate and trying to help in most cases. I can't say in all cases, who knows? I would imagine there's some good people in treatment, just like there's some good cops and there's some good doctors and some good politicians.
I went through Maple Ridge Treatment Center twice. The third time that I was there as a volunteer, giving back my time for them helping me, right?
Yeah, so, watch the movie. You'll understand that you'll see some of that as well. The people working in these treatment centers are themselves people that have been through it, that are wanting to give back in some cases. But are also continuing to be in the cycle of addiction in other cases. And they're all just pretending a role. They're all just playing this game because there's lots of money in it. They get a job out of it. The people that are running the treatment centers are making bank, I'll tell you. And it's really, really immoral and disgusting.
You're making money off of sick people.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know people that are invested in treatment centers because they felt that was part of the solution. They wanted to invest in something that would be ethical, and it turns out it's not ethical. No. It turns out that that's dirty money, and it may be coming to an end. Hopefully, it's going to come to an end before too much longer. That there will be investigations into what this movie is saying there. Body brokers on YouTube. Check that out. It's in the links.
Yeah.
It's important to understand these things. We bang on here all the time about how crazy this is, and I talk all the time about this is insane. I can't stand stuff that's unreasonable. I can't stand lies. I don't like that people are being hurt because other people need to make money by telling lies against nature's best plant and all of that. This is part of why it's so insane, is because there's so much money involved here on all levels of keeping prohibition going, keeping addiction to hard drugs going. All of that is just funneling money into the pockets of rich people that are really very immoral and unethical people and don't deserve it at all. So, yeah, at least if we all know what's going on, there'll be opportunity that will come along for us to change it in some way,
Yeah, I think honesty would pay off a lot better, definitely.
You can't change all the things that you face, but you ain't going to change nothing if you don't face it.
Yeah.
So, the things that can be changed here, we need to face it, we need to understand it. If you don't know about it, you're not going to change it. You're not going to do anything. But if you know that, your loved one died of an opioid overdose because they were being preyed upon by a medical association, by corporate drug dealers, by a treatment industry that also, just profits off of these people. And all of it just ended up in your loved one dead because that's what's happening here. And they don't care. They don't mind. The dead people, they allow for other people to want to get into treatment, for example. I mean, is that what the big motivation is? Let's get people into treatment. I thought it was let's taint the blood supply or the drug supply just so that people stop doing hard drugs, because there's a group of people that really hate the idea that people do these street drugs, and they've been trying for a long time to fight against it. And maybe they figured out this is how you do it. You lace the underground supply with fentanyl to such a degree that they're killing a bunch of people, and then everybody will just stop doing these drugs, and the drug dealers will all go away. Well, that didn't happen either. But is it more than that? Is it, no, let's scare people into treatment. $12 billion a year in California alone for treatment, the treatment industry. $12 billion just in that one state.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of money. They need bodies to be in those treatment centers to be able to bill the money for them. So, obviously having a tainted drug supply forces a lot of people into rehab to try to get off it. It forces the families of loved ones to come up with money to get them into rehab. It forces governments to decide to use tax dollars for people getting into rehab. And all of it is just a big scam to take way more money than they deserve to.
Some people in the States will get mortgages on their houses to put their loved one through
Lots
rehab,
of them, yeah.
And then they lose their houses because they can't pay it back.
So much ripple effect of misery and human suffering and loss going on here, because all of that money is going into the pockets of the rich people. Maybe there's a big scam where the banks are included, because they understand that people taking out mortgages to put their loved ones through rehab is probably going to end up in those people losing their homes, which profits the banks.
There you go.
We'll
sign up
and,
on that.
And on and on it goes, and on and on it goes. And somewhere the insurance companies are involved in that. They must be, because they don't insure people that are wanting to put grows in their houses, or where there's been a grow up or anything like that. All of these huge financial groups are connected and working to make sure that this situation stays the same, because they've been profiting on it for a long time. The banks, the insurance companies, the pharmaceutical companies, and on it goes. And obviously the treatment industry.
Mr. Warnicky likes your T-shirt.
Yes, and I like Mr. Warnicky. And I like he's a fighter. And thanks, Pat.
Thanks, Pat.
Everybody. I wanted to wear the shirt today because I wanted to give a little tribute. I got Jerry Martin's shirt underneath this one.
You got Buzz over there.
And, these guys, Pat and Jerry and the other fellow who I don't know so well, but, the three of them that were dispensary owners in Saskatchewan have stood up to the government, have put together a very expensive constitutional challenge against the government, which raided them and has charged them for dispensing medical cannabis to people.
Sick people.
Sick people.
Yep.
That's
so naughty of you guys for helping sick people.
It's so, you guys are fucking heroes, man.
I know.
And so they didn't just accept their charges and their losses and go away. They decided to fight for the medical access for people. And so they've had this going on for over 4.5, maybe 5 years in November now, since Jerry started down that path. And so they've got this constitutional challenge that says people that have barriers to access shouldn't have those barriers to access. You shouldn't have to order things online.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to have a bank account. You shouldn't have to have ID, for that matter. A lot of people in this neighborhood could really, really benefit from having access to cannabis. But if in a government store you have to have ID, lots of people here don't have ID because their stuff gets stolen off them all the time, or they can't show ID because they have issues that they are not prepared to deal with in their life, and that's their right, whatever it is. You know, these are barriers that are put up. And so this constitutional challenge is about removing those barriers, allowing storefront access for people. And many of the things that we're fighting for here with the Cannabis Substitution Program is what this constitutional challenge is about. So it's gone on now for almost 5 years. They got their day on Zoom, or yes, it wasn't Zoom, but an audio-visual presentation where affidavits that had been submitted to the courts were cross-examined in some cases. We didn't get to see all of those affidavits. What do you got?
He said, so far it's going well. The Crown did not present very good arguments.
That's right, and I'm not allowed. I don't know if we're allowed to even say that. They got a
he did.
I know. There's a publication. There's a publication ban on the proceedings so far. Also ludicrous. People need to know. People want to know. I want to be able to report on this. But, you know, we'll see what happens. I think that they presented a really good case. I don't think the prosecution did, and by their own admission, I don't think the prosecution did. We'll see what the judge says about it. For me, it's a no-brainer. It's easy. How can you deny easy access to poor, sick people to a natural herb in a free country where this natural herb is now supposed to be legal, where our prime minister said before he was elected prime minister that medical people would not have any problems with respect to access when it came to, you know, because of legalization. And the opposite has become the truth. You know, all the best to these guys in this.
And they're fighting for you, me, and the people
absolutely
out here watching us. That these two men that are doing that for people. Three. Sorry, I only know two.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not very familiar with the third one, and I should be.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, me too.
But these were 3 dispensary owners in Saskatchewan, pretty much the only dispensary owners in Saskatchewan, and they were providing access to thousands of people that were having their lives bettered and prolonged by the use of cannabis. And there's nobody that's been harmed. The prosecution has no victims that they're presenting as witnesses to say that, oh, these guys sold me radioactive weed that you know, caused a tumor or anything, because there's nothing like that at all.
Justin Siemens is the other guy.
Justin, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
He's telling us. He's open his long here.
Yeah. So so now they've had that the cross-examination of the affidavits. They've now had some closing arguments. Not all of them are done yet. They've had certain parts of evidence being disputed as to whether it's admissible or not, and not all that's been agreed to yet. So there's still a little ways to go. At this point, it's been set that on the 16th or 17th of November should be the end of it. And then the judge has stated that she will have already prepared much of her decision before this, and that it shouldn't take her long after that to render a decision.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that's the case. I hope it's a good decision.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe our situation is also pending on that to some degree, too.
Wow.
So
he said they actually raided 18 shops at the same time across Saskatchewan.
Wow. So my information was wrong. There was more than 3 dispensaries.
Yeah, he said actually, yeah. But that's right. He knows better because he was there.
I appreciate
right?
that.
We're here.
We seek the truth on this show, and you know, I'm not always right, so I really appreciate it when I get corrected. That's a good moment. So yeah, there was 18 dispensaries at least that were all raided at the same time, and Yeah, you know, good expenditure of our tax dollars, eh?
Yeah.
In raiding medical cannabis dispensaries, which were providing a service upheld by the courts as being a necessary service that was not being adequately provided by the government of Canada. Dispensary owners who felt that they were doing the right thing, for one thing, being brave enough to put up signs and open stores and be transparent in their operations, keep all those records, and advocate for being legal, hoping that and believing that they would be legal, that they would be transitioned into a legal marketplace at some point. And instead, you know, here we are, our tax dollars used to put those out of business, to put Jerry and Pat and
to kill
and
people,
Justin out of business and threaten them.
I was saying that after those 18 shops where the overdoses started going up the very next days, he said after all those shops and so on,
Whitewood started going back downhill.
Yeah.
The crack houses that were there before Jerry's dispensary that went away during the 4+ years that he was there, they've come back. This is just the most horrible situation, and it's being driven by powerful financial forces that are accessing our public servants and forcing them to delay, disturb, enforce, all of these things.
It's like they don't want us to live long. You know? It's like,
well,
we
it's
smoke
like
cannabis, we're going to live long. And we do drugs.
It's not their focus. They don't know you.
Yeah.
They don't care.
No.
What they care about is money.
You're just a
this
number.
is a situation, we've talked about it on other shows, where business ethics are ruling their decisions.
Yeah.
And human ethics are being set aside.
Yeah.
Our rights, our feelings, our families, our futures, all these things that are involved in human ethics are not even being considered by these people who have just got their eyes set on the prize of big money. And not only that, like I said, it's a win-win for them, because they don't know you, but they don't like you. Because you use cannabis, you use drugs, or you use opioids and you're addicted. They hate you, and they get to make money off of you.
Yeah.
They get to take your money to enforce their laws against you, and they don't like you. And yeah, they're going to shorten your life. They're going to make your life miserable. They're going to end up with you dead. And not only do they not care, that's good, because they don't like you. They don't like us. This is who they are. So we are being murdered and victimized greatly by criminals who have orchestrated this system of accessing our politicians, influencing our laws, making cannabis and other plant medicines a criminal offense to possess or trade in, and profiting off of it all the way along. You know, for me, I believe that it should be enough for that to be said. That if I say that on a video, on a social media platform, that it's going to go viral quickly. People are going to say, "Hey, listen to this guy. This is right, man. Holy shit. They're ruining our lives and charging us for it, using our money to do it, while they get rich off our money. Holy shit. This is, I mean, really, that's what should happen." But we are so hypnotized, brainwashed, overwhelmed, you know, drugged on alcohol and hate and division, and now, of course, scared with all this other, you know, I don't want to call it a false flag. I wouldn't do that. But they have had lots of false flag scare techniques to keep people in shock. You know, since world wars and world trade centers going down and all of these things that keep the populace in shock and stop us right in the midst of just barely figuring out how much we're being screwed, you know, and how much they're charging us for it, you know.
I know, right?
And we just get close and boom. You know, they know what they're doing. COVID, 9/11, you know, you name it, they got it. Facebook goes down for 6 hours because they're under investigation, and it was an engineer's glitch of a switch they had to,
They're getting rid of all their
I believe them, don't you? I believe them. I mean, it only cost Zuckerberg, personally $6 billion. The company's $60 million.
His stock went down 5% yesterday.
$6 billion. He
$6
dropped to now he's only the 5th richest person in the world.
Yeah, Pat says you're right as usual, Neil.
It's the name of the show. Yeah. I'm not always right, but we try. I'm a seeker of the truth. I've been that forever. I state things that sometimes are questionable because I believe in my audience and I believe in the people around me that will set me straight. Sometimes I post stuff on Facebook that I'm not sure about. I don't think is true. Maybe I don't want to even promote that, but I want to know. And so I will post it. And darn rights, I get sorted out every time, or the issue gets sorted out every time that the right information comes up, because we are all connected. Man, having Facebook go down for 6 hours, isn't so bad. I mean, 6 hours was back for all of us. It might have been bad for Zuckerberg, but I think he can afford $6 billion. That's nothing to him, pocket change. But for those 6 hours that it was down, did it ever cross your mind that maybe this is the beginning of the end? That maybe we never get it back? That maybe the internet is next? Maybe our phone service is next? Maybe this is what's coming? I had to think those thoughts. I don't, I'm not really that much of a paranoid.
I was relying on text. I was reaching out to people saying, "Hey, you got buddy's phone number?" So I could text them.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
As long as we still have phones, that still connects a lot of us. Although not having the Facebook, social media, and WhatsApp as well, and Instagram, that really disconnects a lot of people that don't have each other's phone number. And I'm sure there was a lot of business lost. I'm sure there was a lot of people frantic for a while. Yeah. And like I say, I had to consider it. Is this something of significance that isn't coming back now?
It was just like being blocked for me.
Yeah. I have not experienced that, but it's good that you mentioned that, because what I didn't mention on last week's show, and I really, really meant to, was that Facebook has disabled our Cannabis Substitution Project page.
Why?
They say it's against community standards.
Oh, and then you appealed it?
I appealed it.
Yeah, and what did
I put it out there that this had happened.
Yeah.
One of my Facebook friends from back east who works somehow with Facebook, or maybe has contact, I don't know what the exact association is, contacted me, asked if there was a file number, which I didn't see any file number. No. I still have access to the page. I can still see where they've posted, this goes against our community standards. There's nothing on there that indicates any file number. Yeah. He said he knew people within Facebook that he would contact, because otherwise, he said it's probably been flagged by AI.
Yeah, and that's
and
all.
And that it's in a queue.
Yeah.
And that they'll get to it, but they don't work weekends. And now it's been almost 2 weeks, if not 2 weeks. Maybe it has been more than 2 weeks. I think 2 weeks ago Friday.
Maybe contact your friend.
I have. I've let him know that
he's probably trying to scramble to fix up what they.
Well, and actually, I messaged him last night? Yeah, last night, and said, I still haven't heard anything. And said, yeah, well, now they're busy with this other thing.
I know, right? Yeah.
Just like the government's always busy with COVID, and that's why they can't do it. But yeah, they took down our Facebook group pages. We have over 2,000 members on that page, members from around the world. People that rely on information that we provide there, that are very interested in what's happening with us, and now they're cut off from that. So we're hoping that we get that reinstated. If not, we will create another page and start again. Yeah. But there's so much good information on that page, like I say, and so many people associated with it that that'll be a real tragedy if that happens. I don't know what standards Facebook thinks they have about community. But this community is in crisis here, along with a lot of other communities in North America and around the world, that we are here trying to bring this community up, to raise the standards within this community, to address a real serious problem of people dying by saving their lives in a natural, herbal way with compassion. We are not criminals. We are not advocating anything that would harm society in any way. In fact, it's 100% the complete reverse of that. What we're looking for is the betterment of society. Our society, the Serious Hope Society's goals are to provide health and wellness through cannabinoid therapeutics.
Yeah.
So, you know, that if that goes against the standards of Facebook, well, then they better think about what their standards are, because we're simply trying to use a natural herbal remedy for the ails of our society, and overturn lies that have been told, and stop the ruination of lives, and address an overdose epidemic with illegal and legal opioids. Seriously? Like, we couldn't be further from being against any type of reasonable community standards. We should be the flagship of community standards, and what should be supported by not just Facebook, but by governments. And it really wouldn't take very much of an intelligent person to be able to get a grip on what it is that we're accomplishing here, what our goals are, what we're actually doing. Like our application to Health Canada, for example, it's all clearly laid out right there. Sure, it's over 100 pages long, but it's not a hard 100 pages to digest. And there's letters in there from experts that clearly state the value of what we're doing here, the safety of what we're doing here. And so, in my opinion, any high school educated person would spend a couple of days with our application, would really understand quickly what it is that we're doing, that we have been doing, that we want to do, and would right away recognize these people need support. Professor Zachary Walsh wrote us a really good letter that's included in that application, where he states that the work that we're doing has saved many people's lives, that if we were to stop doing that work, we would be putting hundreds of people's lives at risk, the people that are part of our program here. And he says there that there should be no obstacles placed in the way of this society and what we're doing. No obstacles. And yet the biggest obstacle, the only real obstacle, is the federal government in this case, that has now waited over a year of having that application and still has not even had conversations with me about how we would structure licenses for doing what we're doing here.
And still the deaths are going up. I've been seeing on the news up to July, we still had a lot of deaths from between January and July in the city.
Just to put in, we have had conversations with Health Canada, with Benoit Seguin, the person in charge of the Special Licensing and Exemptions Division. I recommend that you contact him if you have the time and see fit. Benoit Seguin, Health Canada Special Licensing and Exemptions Division. And he has the file, and his communication with us is that his team of people, so it's not just one person with a high school degree. In fact, Mr. Seguin is a professor in a university, but him and his team are working diligently on that application. That they are working every day on it, is what he said in his most recent email to me, that his team are working diligently every day on our submission.
For 5 minutes.
And it's complicated.
Maybe, complicated. Yeah.
It is extremely complicated to figure out how to deny people saving people's lives from doing what they're doing. I can understand how complicated that must be. It must be very complicated to try to figure out how to not allow us to do this.
Yeah, well, one of the reasons that they were suggesting is because everybody else will want to do it too.
Well, he said other people, there'd be other, he said there would be other people wanting to do what we're doing is appreciated and embraced by everybody else that's in this neighborhood that's working to try to better this neighborhood. So I told Mr. Seguin and his team when we had a video conference call that there's a great deal of political currency available here to the government. That there are other groups. There are other cannabis substitution groups, but there's many other groups as well that are looking very closely at what's happening with us, hoping that we get approval because they want to help the world in profound ways as well. So there's political currency here. If they support what we're doing, they will get support from a lot of other groups that will say thank you and recognize that the good that would do. And on the other side of it, there's some minus currency as well for them. That this is not serving their government's political needs very well, to have myself and others week after week, day after day, complaining
getting more and more upset, building more and more support amongst us against a government that just simply refuses to allow cannabis as an option for people to get off of opioids. It is just ludicrous that this continues on, ludicrous that they would allow us to have this platform and to continue to have to say what we're saying. I really would love to come on the show, and hopefully one day soon this is going to happen, and be able to say, there's some good news, folks. Our quest for low barrier access community cannabis stores looks like it's been approved. And thanks to these people for doing that. Thanks to this government for doing that. I really want to have a good relationship with Health Canada and with the Government of Canada and all of our local politicians, and have them support what it is that is the right thing to do. Allow reasonable access to cannabis as an option for people on opioids and people seeking out health solutions for themselves.
And allow cannabis to be bought from not just government sources, but from mom and pop too, right? Yeah, or like
Absolutely.
We've got the farm gate coming up, I think, in 2022, where you're going to be able to go to a farm and actually buy it from the person.
So far, that's going to be strictly regulated as well. Still. But yeah, you know, this is nonsense. It's ludicrous. They're spending a whole whack of money on regulations and enforcement teams and all the rest of that stuff. None of that money needs to be spent. We don't have problems in our society with cannabis. They have not limited the amount of cannabis that's in our society by having government outlets. There's still all the other outlets that are still going strong despite the, you know, the illegalization, because they always did. They always would. Why would you stop? You still have customers that don't want to go to a government store. The prices are higher there. The weed is probably not as carefully grown. Why would you go to a government store? You've been buying off a buddy for X amount of time. He's still going to have it for you because he still wants customers and he knows his weed is better than... So they didn't stop anything. This community of ours is full of cannabis. In Vancouver, everywhere you go, you can smell cannabis. And that's not just in the last 3 years since legalization. That's been going on for a long, long time here. It didn't change with legalization. They have not reduced the amount of cannabis in the environment. All they've done is, for those people who are afraid of being arrested, who don't understand that the government cannabis is probably not something to be supported, they're going to be customers. For people that are forced into being customers, for our soldiers who get permission to use cannabis, have to do it through the government sources, or they're criminals and illegal. So there's a number of people that have to use licensed producers and will go into government stores. But, you know, the vast majority of savvy cannabis consumers still have the hookups they used to have, are still growing for themselves, or the growers are still growing for them. None of that's changed. They just need to, like, and what I'm meaning by that is, we don't have problems here. It's not like if they stopped all this ridiculous regulation and prohibition of cannabis, that all of a sudden we'd have a whole bunch more cannabis and there'd be problems as a result. It's not, that's not true. That wouldn't happen. Everybody that wants to use cannabis is already using cannabis. Those people that were willing to break the law are still breaking the law. Those people that weren't willing to break the law, now they can go to a government store. But there's no less cannabis around because of them. So if there's problems with cannabis, that they need to have police with guns, you know, come and arrest people and use the criminal law because people are growing cannabis too much or they're selling cannabis to some... If they think they need to use that kind of force against cannabis, I'd like to know what it is they think they're solving. Like, what is that stopping? What harms to society is that stopping? Because they're not stopping the flow of cannabis into our communities. They're not stopping people from using cannabis. So we don't have an increase in accidents on the highways since legalization. Like I say, there was always a lot of cannabis being used on the highways and in our society before legalization, after legalization. Nothing has changed. And so there was no change in statistics of people on the highways either. Cannabis, if combined with alcohol or used in the form of edibles and maybe even concentrates can be a problem on the highways. Don't be doing that. Be careful about that. Don't eat edibles and drive. If you're not used to using cannabis, if you're a novice cannabis user, don't use cannabis. Try it for the first, second, or third, or fourth time and drive. It takes understanding the effects, learning how to control those effects, and once you do that, you may join that fairly large percentage of cannabis consumers who are better drivers, who use cannabis as a focusing tool, who use it to dull down aches and pains that otherwise debilitate them. Or you might just still be impaired by cannabis. Lucky for you if you are. And you don't get to drive, though. So, but, you can get stoned like a teenager, after you've been using it for a few years. Well, you're pretty lucky. Most veteran users would like that back. Yeah. But,
just take 3 days off of not smoking.
There you go, exactly.
You're right back there again.
Yeah, for a short time you can relive that.
After a week, it's like, wow.
Put on some Pink Floyd, put on some sexy lighting, have your treats around you, and see what happens. Yeah, a week off of cannabis, if you're a regular everyday user, you get back to having, some of those really profound effects that we had originally. But those profound effects are debilitating for people. And if you're a novice user and you haven't quite figured them out yet, don't be driving. That was the only point in that.
Commenting on Cato has been agreeing with you, I guess.
Yes, Cato, he's very vocal, and I'm sure he agrees with everything I say. Nothing to do with the fact that I feed him and hold his life in the palm of my hands.
People go meow.
Funny how people will agree with you if you pay them or if you hold the balance of their life in your hands.
Don't kick the gift horse in the mouth, right?
Exactly.
If they're feeding you,
it's about interests,
It is.
It's not in the pharmaceutical company's best interests to have cannabis readily available for people, and the knowledge that it'll work for a whole bunch of things for you that they would otherwise like to give you pills for.
They wouldn't lose that much, but they have other medicines.
They wouldn't lose it
that much.
Too much.
Yes, you're like, wow.
And it doesn't matter. They would lose a lot because they're taking too much, right? Yeah. 3,000% markup and then a protection racket paid for by taxpayers to sell their stuff.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah.
They don't need what they've been getting. They're way too powerful as a result of that anyway. I enjoy having everybody in the marketplace. Come on in. But don't use your money to put down the competition that would give people a choice between your overpriced garbage and what is reasonable for people to pay money for. If the marketplace is open, then people that are charging too much, they just don't sell their products, because the people will sell that same or better product for cheaper, because gougers don't deserve to sell their products. And in an open marketplace, they wouldn't be able to. They're not able to as easily. Sure, they can fool some of the people, quick little schemes here and there. They find ways, blah, blah, blah. But basically, especially with cannabis, people would find good providers, people that they think they can trust, that provide good cannabis. We don't need the government in there using our tax money, charging a bunch of fees and fines, and restricting access and running a protection racket. This is not Canadian. It shouldn't be Canadian. I don't want Canada to have a reputation as being a corrupt place with governments running protection rackets for rich people. And that's exactly what they're doing with this cannabis and in other things too. But the cannabis is the big one. And so we have an opportunity to expose that, and we will. So, yeah, there you go. I think we've talked about just about everything I needed to talk about.
Yeah.
Jerry isn't making it in today, as you probably noticed. He'll be back next week. And we'll be getting up to date with what's going on with Jerry and what's going on with the court case there. Although it's going to be into mid-November before, we get to the point where it actually ends. And then there'll be a decision sometime shortly after that. So we're not right around the corner yet, but we're getting closer.
We're getting there, yeah.
Time goes fast for sure.
Yeah.
The other thing is there's going to be a review of the Cannabis Act coming up.
Yes.
So people should maybe contact anybody they can think of and everybody they can think of, and try to have some influence on what those reviews come up with. I'm not optimistic about it because of the way things have been going. Spring?
We're probably looking at the spring for a decision.
I don't know if Pat has inside information on that or not. If you ask Jerry Martin, I'm sure he thinks it's going to go on for more years. I don't know.
I'm an optimist. I try to be a realist and temper that optimism a little bit. I thought the judge was making noises like it would be quite a bit quicker than that, but probably Pat's more correct about that. These things do take time. That's going to disappoint us. If Health Canada is waiting for that decision before deciding what to do with us, which they might be. I mean, it would definitely have a bearing on, we're also wanting to offer low barrier access in, probably nearly identical ways. In fact, I think if Jerry and Justin and Pat win their case, if they were able to open dispensaries for medical people, that they would likely incorporate some sort of a cannabis substitution program as part of that dispensary. And I'm sure there's compassionate pricing. We talked to Jerry about that as well. He had 1 day a week where people could come and get some stuff for free.
Wednesday.
And I know these compassionate people look after their clients, and that's what these places do. So the government needs to embrace people like that. They need to embrace people that have compassion and want to help out their community. And the need for regulation is minimal. And certainly the need for spending our money to regulate is minimal. Until there's some proven reason for that, they should not be wasting our money. And certainly the criminal law has no business being involved in anything to do with cannabis, growing, selling, possessing. Never should have been involved at all. The criminal law is designed for where damage is done by people that intended to do damage, and it's significant, and people simply wanting to either sell other people herbs or access herbs or grow herbs are by no definition criminal. It's an abomination of what that whole system is supposed to be about. It brings the whole system of justice into disrespect to call that a crime and to label that a crime and to use tax dollars to criminalize people for that. So, hopefully they get a good result.
He says, of course, we would do something to incorporate that and follow your lead. Right?
Well, I don't know if, okay.
That's a good thing.
I know, I'm just shy.
I know. Was that right when I said it? I do the same thing sometimes too when somebody says,
I don't mind being the leader. It's not my ideal place to be.
No.
I like to kind of be the voice in behind whoever's doing the leading. Okay. And if I don't think things are going quite well, I can have some influence there. That's what I like.
Yeah.
But if nobody's going to lead, then I'll certainly step up and do it. Somebody's got to. I'll do it if I have to. But it's not my favorite position to be in. You take a lot of heat when you're a leader. It's a stressful position to be in. You got to really try to be right about the decisions that you make, and decisions that you make are going to affect a number of other people.
Yes,
and that's a lot of pressure. So I'll be the leader in trying to get our area here embracing and supporting and eventually succeeding at getting accepted as a low barrier access point for cannabis. And
spread out across the
absolutely.
Right,
but I'm not in it for accolades. I'm in it because this is wrong and it needs to be righted, and I have the ability to address it. So that's why I'm doing it.
Sir.
We'll see you next week.
All right.
As I always do, I apologize to those people that watch the show faithfully week by week, because I do tend to repeat myself a little bit on the show. But for those people who are just tuning in, and that happens every week, I do want to make sure everybody's up to speed on what's going on and what we're talking about here. The Cannabis Substitution Program that I've been alluding to is a program that we instituted here in Vancouver over 4.5 years ago now, in response to the overdose epidemic of people dying from a tainted drug supply of opioids and street drugs. Because I had knowledge dating back to 2004, when there was also another epidemic with China White, a very, very strong type of heroin that came in and was killing people. And at that time, having been involved in running a cannabis dispensary right at the source there, right close to Main and Hastings, not looking to address the opioid crisis, but simply there because it was cheap rent that was offered. But we found out pretty fast that the people in the area that were suffering under the scourge of being unable to get through withdrawal and get off of these drugs, that they would come and tell us that the brownies and the cakes that we were selling that were infused were enough to get them through withdrawal. And subsequently, there was dozens of people that would report that they were no longer using any of the street drugs or opioids, that the cannabis had saved their life. Those were the words that came out of many, many, many people's mouths over the years that I've been involved in this. So in 2000, and by the way, that dispensary at Main and Hastings lasted for 3.5 years before being raided and shut down by the VPD. But since that time, I was involved in numerous other things, and then we had the overdose crisis hit in 2016. And at the same time, and one of the things that I had been involved in for a number of years leading up to that was advocacy for cannabis dispensaries. In fact, we had grown the cannabis dispensary community in Vancouver to somewhere over 150, maybe as many as 180 dispensaries operating without licenses at that time. And there was rumblings of legalization on the federal level, but just simply rumblings. And I mean, who would have thought that the Liberals would win a majority government on a platform of legalizing cannabis anyway? But there was some talk of that, and certainly that was developing as the Liberals' platform. And so the city of Vancouver decided to regulate these dispensaries and charge them a ridiculous fee of $30,000 a year to be a business, where no other business pays anything close, or just small percentages of that. Even for a small drugstore, it was only $175 for a license for an actual drugstore. But a medical cannabis dispensary, they decided $30,000. They also removed 7 revenue streams that these dispensaries were able to take advantage of, and one of those was edibles, that they were going to not allow these dispensaries to sell edibles. Well, at the beginning of an overdose epidemic of opioid poisoning, that was the absolute last thing that you would want to do as a city, is prevent people getting access to edibles. And so I went and lobbied the city along with many other people. People that were running these dispensaries had many similar things to say about the need for high-dose edibles, that many of their clients were only finding relief through high-dose edibles. And in my case, it was a lot to do with the opioid crisis and my presentation to City Council. And yet they went ahead and they banned edibles. So that prompted me to decide that, well, that doesn't matter whether they banned them or not. We need to be able to get them to people. And so the best thing to do is to be able to give them away for free and make a big deal out of it. And so I went to VANDU, the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users. I got their unanimous board's approval to present at City Council. And I went to City Council and asked for their support and acknowledgement of our program, and got nothing from City Council. They wouldn't further the conversation with me. Kerry Jang hung up on me on a few occasions trying to talk to him about it. He was a doctor that was on council. And but yet we were going to go ahead with it anyway. That's what we do here. I also presented to the VPD board that we were going to be providing these high-dose edibles for free, and that's what we were going to do. And so if you see long lineups of people, that's what we're doing. And so we went ahead and did it, and we were successful for 3.5 years. We gave out care packs to hundreds of people that would line up twice a week, 4 to 6 edibles in a joint per care pack. During that time, Professor M.J. Malloy at UBC put out papers speaking to the efficacy and the safety of what we were doing and how it was working for people. That prompted the City of Vancouver Council to unanimously support a motion that would allow for low barrier access to cannabis to address the opioid crisis. We met with the city, had an understanding that we would find a storefront and start providing our service from a storefront on a daily basis, and that they would then come and approve that. We did that. It took us about a year to find a storefront, because landlords in the City of Vancouver are quite savvy about people renting to have cannabis sold there. And when we would be honest that we were going to provide cannabis, but we had yet to be approved under the Cannabis Act, it was hard to find a landlord. But we did find one. However, the City of Vancouver licensing department, unaware of the motion passed by the councillors, came along and said we couldn't be doing what we're doing, threatened our landlord. He took us to court against his own better judgment and against his own will, but eventually his lawyer recommended that he do that. So after 5 months of being in the store, we were evicted by a judge who said we were arriving in court with unclean hands because we were breaking the law in doing what we're doing. And no, he wouldn't support our application for a 6-month adjournment to get our licenses, and he didn't believe that we could get our licenses within that time anyway. And so we were given 7 days to get out. We quickly bought an RV and parked it out front, and we've been providing our service from that ever since. That's been, we're into our 12th month now of doing that. We've passed 11 months. 2 weeks after moving into the RV, we were raided by the Vancouver Police Department. Their anti-vending unit that stumbled across the RV, saw the signs that I had put up, saw the jars of cannabis in the window, without knowing anything about us, swooped in, seized all of our products. No charges were laid. I was instructed to take down the tent and take down the signs and drive the RV away. I resisted, but upon being threatened at having it towed, I did drive it away straight to the police department, demanded to talk to a senior officer, which I did not get to do because of COVID. But I came right back within an hour and parked it right back where we had it originally. And we have not been bothered by them since, although there was a phone call where the head of the downtown VPD beat cops, Candace Murphy, after listening to me explain very carefully about how we were doing what we were doing and for how long and all the ins and outs, and especially about how people were going to be put at risk of death, the opinion of experts, doctors, professors, in writing, if we stopped what we were doing. And she said we had to stop what we were doing. They appreciated that, what we were doing was an attempt to do good, and they hoped that we would get our licenses, but in the meantime, we had to stop until we got our licenses. Well, we're not about to do that, and we did not do that, and we've been here parked 1 block away from the police station, half a block from the courthouse for all of this time, and it looks like they're just going to wait like we're waiting and see what Health Canada does eventually and go from there. In the meantime, that's where we're at, and let's go outside and check on the people in the RV. Smoke this joint. It's a relatively cool but actually quite nice day in Vancouver. It called for rain. I looked yesterday and there was supposed to be 10 days of rain in a row, and today was supposed to be one of them. But if it's rained at all, it wasn't very much, and it's actually been a pretty nice day here. And we're right here 1 block away from Main and Hastings. We're 1 block away from the police station. That's that building right up there. And 1 block away from Main and Hastings, which is the largest open-air drug dealing center in North America. And yeah, these things coexist kind of side by side, and we're in the mix too. This is our RV. This is the Hippy Dippy van, the Ganja Mobile, the Healing Wave CSP RV. We have many names for it. There's lots of names within the community here, and we're a program that, like I say, has been operating for 4.5 years, and it was less than 6 months after starting the program that a fellow, Howard De Jong, a board member from Vandu, he took our program over to Victoria, and a group called Solid over there that advocates for the people that are exploited by the drug war. They started our program over there, and it's been running ever since, where they provide access to cannabis for people there. Chris Backer in Halifax is a good friend of mine. I stayed with him on the Freedom Tour and got to know him well. He liked what we were doing here, and he decided that his community could use the same thing. So it's getting really close to 2 years ago now that Chris started his cannabis substitution program, East Coast Cannabis Substitution Program in Halifax. They run every Monday, where they have a long lineup of people, and they give out a couple hundred care packs, and doing absolutely wonderful work in that community, and I'm so thankful for the work that he's doing and the other people are doing. And Mary McCarty was a head baker for us for quite a while here in Vancouver. She's got family back in London, Ontario, and she had to go back there for that, and so she had to take our program there. And so now for over 6 months, or she's in her 6th month, she's been providing cannabis high-dose edibles through a cannabis substitution program. She said she had 130 people there today, which is down from the usual 200 or so, because I guess there's a GST check that people got, so that always reduces the amount of people that require her services. But there they are doing that as well, and there's Jason Lafassi in Sudbury, and there's other people as well. And I just hope that this takes off all over the place, and I can't thank those people enough. And I gotta say, if you're in any of those areas, or even if you're outside of those areas, and you can support these substitution programs, that would be really awesome. They're all simply by donation, all by volunteer. Nobody takes any money. Nobody's making anything off of this. We're just people that want to make this situation go away. The situation of overdose epidemics that are killing our loved ones at an alarming rate.
and the situation of the now over-regulation of cannabis, which is essentially still just prohibition, even ramped up a bit for anybody that's not part of the government legalization scheme. Both of those situations need to be addressed, they need to be turned around, and this is one way to do it. So if you can help those programs continue to operate until the government gives us the respect that we deserve, that would be awesome. All donations are welcome, and thank you to all the people that do donate and have donated to our program and to those other ones that are working there, and for all the volunteers. Without volunteers, it doesn't work either. We had 15 volunteers in Vancouver for the last few years of doing it here. There's just a few going on in Halifax and in London. They could use a few more. It's a wonderful thing to get involved with. Chris and Mary are wonderful people, and I highly recommend, if you've got any time, if you can afford some time, either putting stuff together during the week or on the days that they give it out, I'm sure that would be very much appreciated. So thanks to those people, thanks to you people. Let's go check out what's going on here. Maybe we can go to the back door now.
Maybe it's the president, they don't get
That's our secret knock. Now everybody knows, so it's not so secret. Hey Andrew, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing all right. It's going good.
That's good to know.
I've had 20 people come pick up their 420.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it's a little lower than normal. It's GST day or check day apparently, so maybe there's a little lower than normal.
I'll probably have a few more people.
We're not done yet. That's
no,
for sure.
We're not done. Day's not over.
And so what we do here is we give out. We don't call them care packs anymore. Now the person gets their 420. We give out 420 milligrams of their choosing of a bunch of variety of different stuff, and they can get that every 4 days. So they're put on a list. We check to see if they've been in the last 4 days. If not, they get their 420. What do we got for people to choose from, Andrew?
Got some of this.
Oh yeah, brownies from Roberta.
Came in today.
Right.
I have some cookies from Robert.
Right.
These are 100 milligram cookies.
We also have cookies from Michael the Cookie Monster that we give out at the side window.
These are 80 milligram brownies. I have some chocolates here.
Where'd they come
Fraser, who works with us, made some chocolates.
So he's also becoming a regular donator by the looks of it. That's awesome. And
made some chocolates.
What's the milligrams on those?
These are 100 milligrams each.
100
jelly
milligrams
bean.
each.
It's the JB stands for jelly bean inside.
Right.
And I have some more over here. These are hearts. These are 100 milligrams too.
Is that a nut?
Yeah.
So you have to make sure people are
I have to let them know.
Not sensitive to nuts.
Yeah. And we have some caramels here from from Robert.
Those are the 150s,
150 milligrams.
Nice.
Yeah, people like them.
Okay.
I also got.
Yeah, that's a cold wind coming through here.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Yeah, I didn't wear my CSP jacket.
Okay.
You can also have a CSP hoodie if you like. We have these available. They're really nice. They're high quality. Minimum $25 donation to the CSP. All the money, every cent of it goes to the CSP to help get donations or to help get the products and things like that. Some of these things are donated. Some of these things we buy. Some of these things we pay partially for. Whatever it takes to get what we need, that's what we do. So yeah, if you want to get a hoodie and support the project, that hoodie's worth $60 online at another website. So we got them for a minimum $25, which is a steal. We like to give good deals all the way around every chance we get. So you can support our program and get a great deal on a hoodie that looks really sharp and promotes us as well. And we have t-shirts as well. So what else you got, Andrew?
I got some Gorilla Ganja gummies right here. These kind. I have some CBD in there.
Wonderful
company.
I have,
this blue one is the pineapple is CBD.
Right.
I have some black cherry that's 1-to-1. That means 40 THC and 40 CBD.
Right on.
I have full THC raspberry, and then I have sativa. I have sativa mango that's 40 THC.
So we got a pretty good selection for people who have different tastes and things.
20 milligrams each. They're marijuana pod leaves.
That's from Green Wilderness.
Yeah.
Wonderful. They've been awesome supporters of ours for a long time.
I have this that came in.
That's from Carly Thiessen.
That's 250 milligrams package. Looks like a gummy.
Some type of a candy.
Yeah. And then I have the reliable cubes, 50 milligram each cube.
Nice.
So that's 100 milligrams right there.
Beautiful.
And I also have. I have 50 milligram pills. I have some Keef caps. These are keef caps right here. They got keef inside. These ones have the distillate. They're 50 milligrams.
That's from Dirty Dave.
These are 50 milligrams.
This is from Brian, a good friend of ours.
These are 50 milligrams.
Brian knows who he is.
I also have 5 milligram ones. We have people that have our low dose. These are 5 milligram THC dose.
Yeah.
We have people that are very low dose.
It's important to have low dose, it's important to have high dose, it's important to have caps because some people are diabetic or they don't want to eat it in the edibles or their stomachs can't tolerate it or things like that.
I have this one here.
And then we got, what's this now?
I have some of this.
Oh yeah, we got these things, tinctures.
When I give this to them, that's their whole 420.
Right, because there's more than 420 in those.
Yes, I have some honey here. Some very nice honey.
So that's from Colleen.
Yes. Very sweet lady. And then I have some snake oil. People love this, and someone said, "Can I have one?" They loved it.
Yeah, it works really, really well.
Powerful medicine. I have this. I have some CBD tincture.
Nice.
Right?
Beautiful.
Because I've had a lot of CBD patients, right?
Yeah.
And what else do I have? I have this one here. Didn't have a label, but it's 1-to-1. It's 250 milligrams of THC and 250 milligrams of CBD. We have a lot of people that are doing 1-to-1s and things like that. And I have this one for the last one. This one is 1,500 milligrams of hemp oil drops. Right?
Nice.
That's more than 420, but that is a great package.
Yeah. Yeah,
and that will do what you need it to do.
We do get lots of things donated that are more than 420 milligrams, and that's a one-shot deal. People can have one, but that's their 420 for the day. We don't take it away from any other. Like 4 days later, they're not still working that off or anything. It's a one-shot deal. They get to have it. We get lots of stuff like that. It's just like, you know, random things that we get that we can just give out to people when we have them. Dirty Dave provided us with 150 fantastic joints that he rolled himself that we give out to people at the side window there. And, I'm not allowed to say that. No. Sorry. There's so many producers for this show. And we also have topicals for people here. We have suppositories for people. We try to have everything that people will need because lots of people need different things, and so we need to have all that.
I just had one sent down topical from Mary.
Yeah, and Mary sent us topical. Beautiful. That's what we got. Thank you so much, Mary. That's wonderful of you. I'm going to send you something for that. And yeah, okay, very good, Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
Keep up the good work. We'll see you inside in just a sec.
Cheers.
Well, we have the side window. We could say hi to Jen here.
Hi.
Hi, Jen. This is the Healing Wave part of the operation here.
Lots of happiness here.
This is where people come if they're not members of the Cannabis Substitution Program. Anybody can come here. We really encourage people to come here. Here we provide cannabis for sale in all of its different forms, and we try to make the prices as reasonable as possible. We're quite a bit lower than anybody else in the industry for sure. We take pride in that, and we know that. And our quality is way up there because we're not just selling cheap weed cheap. We're selling good weed cheap because that's what people deserve to have. And you know, we have stuff here that rivals anything that's available anywhere else. Some of the stuff that we have is better than that's out there. I know it is because I know the growers and how much care and time and effort and experience and skill is put into what is being provided. So we're very, very thrilled with that. So I'm coming in, but you got things you want to say at the window?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, we'll just come in.
Yeah.
Hi, George.
Hey guys.
How are you doing today?
Not too bad.
That's good.
Just slaving away, rolling joints.
Yeah, you roll your joints gently every day. Merrily, 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 merrily. Glad it isn't hay.
What else do we have? I got a CBD tincture.
Yeah, pre-rolls are quite popular. A lot of people either don't want to have to roll or
they can't
roll.
Yeah, it's hard for lots of people to roll, you know, especially if they're homeless. They got to find a corner somewhere where they can get out of the wind, you know. The wind is terrible to try to roll in.
Trying to roll in the rain, that's no fun either.
So yeah, the pre-rolls are very, very popular.
Yeah,
and,
they're quite necessary.
We sell them. They range in from $1 up from there. And then we give them away when people come to the window. It's become a thing in the neighborhood that people know that they can come here and get a free joint, and people are passing that information along. We're sort of okay with that, but you know, it is all about balance and being able to supply for the demand. And so we try to let people understand that we're not here primarily to give it away for free. We do that because we don't want to turn anybody away. We want to help everybody. But we have it for $1 for a reasonable joint of cannabis that's definitely worth smoking, that'll definitely give you the buzz you're looking for. And we have edibles that are reasonably priced, and we have caps that are reasonably priced. So, but if people can't afford it, and that's the case for lots of people, we're really quick to give it away. In fact, we're pretty quick to give away edibles to people. You know, we ask if they want one. We want people to understand the value of edibles in this neighborhood. We want them to, you know, become the thing that people will go to, that everybody wants to get an edible, and that they will also advocate for stores where they can get those. So that's kind of why we do what we do, to some degree. I was supposed to smoke this during the 420 session. Glenn gave it to me, and I didn't. And I don't even remember what he said about it, but it was something.
I forgot the name. It's really tasty. I have to ask him.
It's very tasty, yeah. I recommend you try this stuff if you haven't already. So that's kind of it. We don't know how long we're going to be continuing out here in the RV. We've already gone through 1 winter and 2 summers.
Oh, people keep asking us, so you're going to get to open the shop again soon? Well, we have no idea.
We really don't. You know, I'm told by Health Canada that we should just be patient, that they're working diligently on it every day. So we are being patient. Of course, we're not stopping our services, and that would be unreasonable to expect us to do that. I don't know if the people that we're seeking permission from have any type of an idea of what we're doing here and the people that we're helping. But if they did, then they certainly wouldn't want us to not do what we're doing, unless they really don't like people that we're helping, and that might be true too. I hope that's not the case. I really hope that's not the case. I know that there's a lot of hate for drug users at some levels of this prohibition that is being foisted upon our society, but I also know that that's not typically all the frontline prohibitionists. It's not all of the cops, it's not all of the doctors, and it's not all of the people at Health Canada. And so I hope that you know, they're just doing a job. They're doing what they're paid to do. They don't have that real hate on for the people that are involved with the illegal drugs that some people do, that drives some of this prohibition. So, you know, maybe they'll one of these days they'll get around to letting us do what we're doing here with some sort of a proper official piece of paper with a signature framed and hung on a wall in a shop. That would be so nice, eh? You guys got anything you want to add? Any stories of any sort?
Well, just about the drains, somebody today said, you know, they'd be lost without us. So
we do get a lot of reinforcement.
Really help somebody's day.
We get a lot of reinforcement from people, for sure. It's rewarding on its own. We wouldn't really have to be commented on with people telling us how much they appreciate what we're doing. We kind of know, but it is nice to be encouraged by people that you're helping, and we get a lot of that here. This is a wonderful thing to be doing during really tough times, that's all. And it is hard to see how people are struggling, and we see a lot of people that don't use our services that are here in the lanes around us and wandering around, and we try to reach out to them every chance we get. Whenever they're stopped and struggling, we'll go up and offer them some water and see if they want to try an edible and talk to them about what we're doing here. There's a lot of people we could reach that we haven't reached yet, but with you know, the help of all the people that have got us this far and the help of the people that will get us even further, we should be able to eventually have this be a thing that's available for people all around North America, maybe around the world, that there's low barrier access community cannabis shops. In the meantime, do what you can, please. Take some time to write a letter, send an email, make a phone call, educate somebody that you know, call into an open line show, talk to the media, talk to politicians. There's a lot of things that can be done. If enough people do it, you know, you might think you're just one name on a petition, or you're just one call that doesn't mean much, or one vote during an election. But all of those add up, and it takes all of those individual singles to make the group and to make the large amount. And so don't feel like you're alone. Feel like you're one of a legion of people, and you're needed, and we need everybody's signature, we need everybody's phone call, we need everybody's little bit of effort to try to sort the situation out. It's not just for access to cannabis, it's really about governments and what their role should be in our society, freedom of us as individuals, the rights that we should have as individuals. All of that is tightly tied in to our pursuit for the legalization of this plant. So, you know, if you don't like paying as much tax as you're paying, if you don't like the way your police resources are being used, if you don't like the way you're being forced into some things that aren't good for you and forced away from other things that are natural and good for you, then, you know, join our little fight here and come with us and be part of this amazing team of people that will eventually, hopefully, get not just low barrier access to cannabis in community cannabis shops, but get some real freedom and get some actual respect for our rights from politicians that are limited, accountable, and transparent in what they're doing. You can find out more about these things by following what Pot TV does. I'm thrilled to have Pot TV give me the platform to be able to put this message out there. It's dear to my heart to be able to do this, and without them I wouldn't be able to. Thanks to my producer Neil, who works so hard, comes here every time and makes it work. Wouldn't work without him, that's for damn sure. There's not just me, but there's others that are able to take advantage of this platform and to educate, and you can find their shows as well. A lot of it in the archives. You can spend hours and hours, days, weeks, months in the archives learning all kinds of stuff, finding out the history of all of these things that are going on. So much good information there. But currently we have Carly Marley and BC Bud Girl doing the 420 Lifestyle Show every Monday. My show is on Tuesdays at 4 o'clock, the THC show. We've got BC Bud Girl also doing a Wake and Bake Morning Glory show, 10 a.m.-ish on Thursdays. And Johnny B, probably the most important show of all, as we learn how to grow. And How's It Growing with Johnny B on Fridays is where you can find out all the latest grow information. Johnny's great at investigating what's working, what's not working, what companies work, what bulbs work, all kinds of stuff. Entertaining and a wealth of information. Check out all the shows. Do what you can. Be kind to yourself, be kind to other people. These are really tough and divisive times. We are being forced apart by governments with edicts and all kinds of things going on that are dividing us. And even though we're divided, we don't have to hate each other. Even though people don't agree, we don't have to hate each other. We can make choices for ourselves and not impose them on other people and not hate other people for the choices that they make. Don't fall into that trap. We're being suckered into dividing our society and being very, very hateful. It's just another false flag on that respect as far as how they're manipulating what's going on here. Don't fall for it. Be kind to each other. Help each other. Work for progress. Be kind to yourself. And most importantly, as always, have as much fun as you can.